Well, we've heard a lot about the long-term effects of COVID, but there are also concerns it can cause strokes.
Dr. Gracia Mui is the director of Neurological Care at UConn Health and also the co-director of the UConn Stroke Center. She is here now to educate us and talk about how we can avoid issues with this. Thank you, Dr. Mui, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so it's not just a respiratory illness. It can also cause strokes, COVID. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Early in the pandemic, we noticed that COVID could cause all kinds of blood clots. And as we know, strokes are blood clots that go to the brain. So, we saw this kind of early in the pandemic, and it's still a problem. Even though you can have the respiratory illness, stroke is very important to recognize, and it definitely can affect people.
So how does COVID cause a stroke, and is there a way to avoid it?
Yeah, so COVID can cause the blood to get thicker. It could cause a hypercoagulability where the blood can thicken up and cause clots. It can also cause damage to the blood vessels. So any organ can be affected by this. And if it goes up to the brain, then that's when you get the stroke. The best way to prevent a stroke from with COVID is to get vaccinated and to wear a mask and wash your hands.
All right. Doctor, can you, if you have COVID and then it's like a month later, are the chances greater, the closest to your diagnosis, as they are like 6 months later?
The fortunate thing, it's usually in the beginning part. And after a month, this risk would go down. So the first couple of weeks having COVID is when you're at greatest risk.
Okay.
And it's something like 1 to 3% of people with COVID can have it, from what we can tell from the population studies that have been published. So it's a small chance, but it's 1% out of, the millions of people who have COVID. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. That's a big number.
And if you have COVID, and maybe it's not always that you're in the hospital, but what would you be looking for at home, or what are some signs you need to know so that you can take care of yourself?
The acronym that you should remember is B FAST. So that stands for, B is for balance. So if you have balance issues, you can't walk or you're falling over. E is for eyes. So if you have problems with your vision, you can't see right, your vision is different. F is for face. So if you notice your face is drooping on one side, that's when to call 911. A is for arm. So you put up your arm and see if one falls down or one is weaker. That's how you can tell also. S is for speech. So any language issues, understanding or talking. And then T is time. It's really important to call 911 immediately. Once you notice this, or if you notice your family member has it, call 911. The ambulance can come and take you to a stroke center. We're fortunate enough at UConn to be a newly appointed thrombectomy center by the Joint Commission. So if you get to a stroke center like UConn, then you can quickly get treated. There's a medication that can be given to get rid of the clot potentially. And there also can be a procedure, a surgery that could be done if you're a candidate to remove the clot that happens from the stroke.
All right, we just have a little bit of time, but Doc, this was a pretty extensive study. They analyzed 20,000 U.S. adults hospitalized with COVID, so it's not like 100 people or 200 people. This was a big population that they sampled.
That's right, yeah, and this is just one of many studies that have happened. There's global studies also, and it's seen across the world that there is a chance of stroke. And so the best thing to do preventing strokes that happen from COVID is to just not get COVID as much as we can nowadays, and the best way to do that is to get vaccinated.
Okay.
All right, Doctor, thank you so much for being with us. And we know that you've got a lot of information for folks at UConn. So it's just good to be aware of this.
Absolutely.
We know about looking for respiratory signs, but you need to be watching out for your family members with these other things as well.
It's COVID. It's, Doctor, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, still ahead. We are in it smells delicious in here. We're making some delicious food and some drinks, I think, too. I see a cocktail over there.
Oh, Panizzo is here. They're making delicious food and cocktails. And a little bit later, we're talking about whiter teeth and how you can get them in the comfort of your own home. But first, let's check on today's news and weather from Studio A.